If you enjoy this content, please take a moment to like and subscribe. May the old gods and the new smile on you. Good gaming.
How stark is the stuff of legend in the north, and their family words, winter is coming.
Unbowed, unbent, unbroken. The words of House Martell.
The game mode is Clash of Kings. House Stark wins the terrain roll and places a forest in the middle of the board on the center objective. House Martell places a stakes next to the left objective. House Stark places a corpse pile near the stakes. House Martell places a bog on the far side, over the right objective. Deployment. The table will be referenced from the Martell's left and right perspective. House Stark also wins the roll for first player choice and chooses to take the deployment zone. They select their board edge and choose House Martell to deploy the first unit. House Martell selects a unit of Martell spearmen with the Widower in the center. House Stark deploys a unit of House Tully sworn shields with their commander, Howland Reed, opposite them. House Martell deploys the Golden Company crossbowmen with JOKIN to the left of the spearmen. House Stark deploys a unit of Karstark spearmen with Sandor Clegane, the fugitive bodyguard, opposite them. House Martell deploys a unit of Martell Royal Guard with the commander, Daemond Sand, the vengeful knight, beside the Golden Company crossbowmen. House Stark deploys a unit of Umber Ravagers with a Winterfell Guardian on the far left flank. House Martell deploys a unit of Starfall Outriders near the objective on the far right flank. House Stark deploys its final unit of House Bolton Bastard Girls with Mira Reed beside the Karstark Spearmen. House Martell chooses to make the Starks first player. This gives the Martells first choice of objective cards for use by their commander. Using objective cards 6 to 10, House Martell selects objective card 8, which gives precision. House Stark selects objective 9, which gives when performing a melee attack. Before resolving that attack, the defender becomes weakened. House Martell selects objective 6 to gain Sundering. House Stark selects objective 7 to gain Vicious. Martell hold objectives 8 and 6. Starks hold 7 and 9. With that, the Clash of Kings commences.
Round 1.
At the start of the Stark's turn, the Martell player plays Sand Diplomacy, the Stark player chooses the Maneuver Zone, and the Martell player the Tactics Zone. House Stark then plays the North Remembers on the Umber Ravagers. House Stark activates Arya Stark and claims the crown and selects the Outriders to perform a panic test with -1 to their roll. The Outriders fail the test and suffer 1 wound. House Martell activates Daemond Sand to claim the Wealth Zone and targets the Outriders to restore the lost wound. House Stark activates the House Tully sworn shields and marches them 10 inches towards the forest and the center objective. ELLARIA Sand activates and claims the combat zone and does not target any combat unit. House Stark activates the House Karstark spearmen and marches them forward 8 inches. House Martell activates the Starfall Outriders and maneuvers and then marches them towards the objective on their far right flank in the bog. House Stark activates the Umber Ravagers and maneuvers then marches them to the left flank objective near the stakes. House Martell activates their Martell spearmen and maneuvers them forward with a slight pivot. At the start of the Stark's turn, the Martell spearmen trigger their order, Tactical Reposition, allowing the Golden Company crossbowmen to shift 3 inches forward. House Stark activates the Bastard's Girls who march forward in front of the stakes. House Martell activates the Royal Guard and maneuvers them forward a few inches. Sansa activates and passes her turn. Nymeria also chooses to pass with their action. House Stark activates Littlefinger who follows suit. During the cleanup phase, the Starks discard Northern Ferocity. House Stark draws 2 cards. They now hold Winter's Might, Cranog Traps, and Winter is Coming. House Martell draws 1 card and Sand Diplomacy is added to their hand. End of round 1.
Round 2.
At the start of round 2, the House Martell player uses Tyeen's ability, Healing Hands, and places the Strangler onto the maneuver zone. House Martell then plays Sand Diplomacy and marks the combat zone. The Starks then mark the tactics zone. House Martell activates Nymeria and claims the crown, targeting the House Tully sworn shields for a panic test with -1 to the roll. The Starks pass the morale test. Littlefinger activates and uses an order token to replace the wealth zone's effect with the unclaimed tactics zones. The Starks draw 2 tactics cards and place a weakened token on the Golden Company crossbowmen. The Martells activate Daemond Sand and claims the maneuver zone, targeting the Outriders and moving them onto the nearest objective. The Outriders finish their move pivoting to face the Starks. The Starks activate the Tully sworn shields and maneuvers them onto the center objective in the forest. The Martells then activate the Royal Guard and cautiously move them forward. At the start of the Starks' turn, the Martells use tactical reposition to shift the Martell spearmen 3 inches forward. The Starks activate the Karstark spearmen and maneuver them 5 inches behind the Tully sworn shields. At the start of the Martell turn, the Stark player plays the threat unseen, targeting 1 enemy combat unit to suffer a panic test. The Stark player targets the spearmen, who are within long range of an unengaged Crannogmen unit. The spearmen gain a panic token. The Martells then activate the spearmen, who elect to march forward and subsequently roll their panic test and pass. The Stark player uses the panic token to force a re-roll, and the Martell player fails, suffering 3 wounds to the spearmen. At the start of the Stark turn, Sandor Clegane uses his threaten order to put a weakened token on the Martell spearmen. House Stark then activates the Umber Ravagers and maneuvers them onto the objective on the Stark right flank. House Martell activates the Golden Company crossbowmen and maneuvers them forward 3 inches and pivots them to face the opening in the forest and the Bolton Bastard Girls. House Stark activates and passes with Sansa Stark. At the start of the Martell turn, House Stark uses Arya's ability to target the Bolton Bastard Girls to maneuver them 6 inches. House Martell activates the Starfall Outriders and declares a maneuver action. The Starks play Crannog traps, and the Starfall Outriders suffer -1 movement and, being in long range of a Crannogmen unit, is treated as moving through dangerous terrain. The Outriders roll a D3 and suffer 4 wounds. The Starks activate the Bastard Girls and declares a ranged attack against the Golden Company crossbowmen. Rolling 4 attack dice, 2 hits land. The Martell player fails both armor saves and take 2 wounds and become vulnerable. The Golden Company crossbowmen pass their panic test. The Bolton Bastard Girls then trigger their order, charging volley, to perform 1 charge action on the defender. Rolling a 6 on their charge roll, the Bastard Girls successfully charge the Golden Company crossbowmen. The Starks then play Winter is Coming to prevent the Martell player from using friendly orders or tactics cards, and also Winter's Might before rolling attack dice to gain Sundering. The Stark player rolls their attack dice and with re-rolls scores 6 hits. The Martell player rolls 2 saves, and the Stark player expends the vulnerable token to force a re-roll. The Martell player fails 2 more saves, and the Golden Company crossbowmen suffer 6 wounds. The Martell player successfully passes the panic test and takes no additional wounds. The Martell player then activates Ellaria Sand and passes. The Stark player then activates Arya Stark and passes. At the end of the round, the Stark player scores 2 victory points for the objectives they control, and the Martell player scores 1 victory point for the objective they control. During the cleanup phase, the Stark player draws Assault Orders and Devastating Impact. The Martell player draws Unbowed, Unbent, Unbroken. End of round 2.
Round 3.
The Starks begin round 3, and at the start of their turn, the Martell spearmen use tactical reposition to shift back 3 inches. The Stark player activates Sansa Stark, who triggers her once-per-game ability to draw Winter's Might back from the discard pile. Sansa claims the combat zone and targets the Bolton Bastard Girls, who perform a melee attack on the Golden Company crossbowmen. The Boltons roll 6 attack dice and all 6 hit. JOKIN and his crossbows fail to save any. They take 5 wounds and are destroyed. The Starks score 1 victory point. The Bolton bastard girls surge forward to exploit the gap in the Martell line. They move towards the Martell spearmen and pivot to face their flank. Tyene activates and claims the wealth zone. She targets the Starfall Outriders and heals 4 wounds. Littlefinger claims the tactics zone to draw 2 tactics cards. The Starks now have a full 5-card hand. He then places a weakened token on the Starfall Outriders. The Lady Nym activates and takes the crown. Her influence goes onto the Martell spearmen. She then targets the Umber Ravagers with a -2 panic test. The Umbers roll a 7 and just pass the panic test. At the start of the Stark player's turn, the North Remembers is played on the Bolton bastard girls. The Boltons activate and the Martells play Rising Temperatures, preventing them from using friendly tactic cards and giving them -1 to hit. The Starks also use Howland Reed's order, Superior Flanking, to place vulnerable and panic tokens on the Martell spearmen. The Boltons then shift and shoot with 4 dice into the flank of the spearmen. Only 1 arrow hits, but the spearmen fail their armor save and suffer 1 wound. They also fail their panic test, and the Stark player expends the panic token to force a re-roll of the D3 dice. The Martells roll a 2 and suffer 2 wounds. The Boltons then trigger their charging volley order and successfully charge into the flank of the Martell spearmen. Before they can attack, however, the Martell spearmen use their set for charge order to perform a melee attack first. They change their facing towards the Boltons and align away from the Tully Sworn shields. Nymeria's influence gives vicious and critical blow. The Martells roll their attack dice and successfully land 5 hits. The Stark player expends the weakened token and now only 2 dice hit. The Boltons fail to save both and takes 2 wounds. Then they fail their panic test, taking 3 more wounds. After completing the spearmen's melee attack, the Martells play coordinated plotting, allowing the Royal Guard to perform 1 maneuver action. They pull back to put the Boltons in line of sight. Finally, the Boltons roll their attack dice, and with re-rolls they only land 2 hits. The spearman fails to block the hits and takes 2 wounds. They then pass their panic test. At the start of the Martell player's turn, the Stark player uses the last token from Arya to retreat the Bolton bastard girls out of combat. The Boltons pull back towards the forest 9 inches and turn 180 degrees. The spearmen also pivot to face them. The Martell player then activates the spearmen who declare a charge against the Boltons. Mira Reed triggers hidden traps, and the spearmen suffer 1 hit and take 1 wound. The spearmen successfully charge the Bolton bastard girls, dealing 1 hit that the Boltons fail to block. With Vicious, the Boltons fail their panic test and take 2 additional wounds. Tully Sworn shields activate and declare a charge against the Martell spearmen, who are 7 inches away. Needing a 2+, they roll a 1 and fail their charge. Because of the location of the Bolton bastard girls, they are trapped in the forest and only move forward 1 inch. They then take and pass a panic test for failing the charge. ELLARIA activates and takes the maneuver zone. She targets the Starfall Outriders, who maneuver 5 inches forward towards the Stark lines. ELLARIA uses her ability to remove the weakened token from the Outriders and place 1 on the Tully Sworn shields. Sandor Clegane uses Threaten to place a weakened token back on the Starfall Outriders. The Karstarks maneuver towards the Outriders, bolstering the Tully's exposed flank. The Outriders maneuver towards and then declare a charge on the Bolton bastard girls. The charge is successful and they charge into the Bolton's rear. They forget to trigger Rally Cry. They roll 7 attack dice, and with re-rolls and critical blow, they get 9 hits. But the weakened token is spent, and now the Outriders only hit 4 times. The bastard girls block 1 hit and take 3 wounds, leaving only Mira standing. They then fail their panic test, and the Bolton bastard girls are destroyed. The Martell player gains 1 victory point. The Outriders use their surge forth to move backwards away from the Tully Sworn shields. They then pivot, staying just off the edge of the bog. The Martell spearmen then perform a pivot. The Starks then activate the Umber Ravagers, who do a slight maneuver and remain in control of the objective. With the final activation of round 3, the Royal Guard activates and maneuvers towards the Tully Sworn shields. The Starks score 2 victory points for controlling the center and left objectives. In the cleanup phase, the Starks draw assault orders. The Martells discard unbowed, unbent, unbroken, and draw coordinated plotting, superior positioning, and Roynish vengeance.
End of round 3.
Round 4!
Round 4 opens with Tyene claiming the wealth zone and restoring 4 wounds to the Martell spearmen. Arya then claims the tactics zone. The Starks draw 2 cards and place a weakened token on the Royal Guard. ELLARIA Sand then claims the crown and targets the Umber Ravagers. Needing a 7+, they manage to pass their panic test. ELLARIA then uses her ability to remove the weakened token from the Royal Guard and mistakenly also places a vulnerable token on the Tully Sworn shields despite not controlling the combat zone. At the start of their turn, Sandor uses Threaten to place a weakened token on the Outriders. Littlefinger then activates and claims the combat zone. He then uses his second and final token to replace the zone, with the effect from the unclaimed maneuver zone. The Karstark spearmen then maneuver 5 inches towards the Starfall Outriders. The Martells activate the Outriders who maneuver, then march to place themselves into the flank of the Karstark spearmen. The Starks activate the Tully Sworn shields and maneuver them slightly, while remaining in control of the center objective. The Martell spearmen activate, and Bog Devil Ambush is played to put a weakened token on them. The spearmen then declare a charge on the House Tully Sworn shields. It is successful. With Howland Reed's Disrupt, the Martells initially land 4 hits. The Starks use the weakened token and only suffer 1 hit. The Starks then use their shield wall ability to auto-block it. By automatically passing their panic test, the Tully Sworn shields trigger their Stubborn Tenacity ability to cause the spearmen 1 wound. The Starks activate the Karstark spearmen who march towards the right objective, but fall just short of claiming it. The Martells activate Nymeria Sand. She claims the maneuver zone, and the Outriders move 6 inches towards the Tully Sworn shield's rear. At the start of the Starks' turn, tactical reposition is used to shift the Royal Guard 3 inches towards the left of the spearmen. The Umber Ravagers activate and destroy the stakes while retaining control of the left objective. The SUNSPEAR Royal Guard maneuver 5 inches towards the Umber Ravagers. The Starks score 2 more victory points for controlling the center and left objectives. End of round 4.
Round 5.
Littlefinger opens the round by claiming the tactic zone and puts a weakened token on the Martell spearmen. They draw 2 cards, and because they have more than 5 in hand, they are forced to discard a card. They discard assault orders. Nymeria activates and claims the combat zone. Her influence goes on to the spearmen. The spearmen perform a melee attack on the Sworn shields. Hitting on 5s because of Disrupt, the Martell player lands 2 hits. The Starks use the weakened token, and all attack dice miss. The failed attack triggers Stubborn Tenacity, and the spearmen suffer 1 wound. Arya claims the maneuver zone and is poisoned by the Strangler. She targets the Umber Ravagers who pull back from the Royal Guard. Tyene then activates and claims the wealth zone. She heals 4 wounds to the Martell spearmen. Sansa activates and claims the crown. She uses her ability to replace the zone's effect with returning Crannog traps from the discard pile. The spearmen attack the Sworn shields. They roll 1 hit, which is blocked. The Martell player expends the vulnerable token, and the Tully Sworn shields fail and suffer 1 wound. Then the Tully Sworn shields fail their panic test and suffer 1 additional wound. At the start of the Starks' turn, the Martell player uses tactical reposition to shift the Royal Guard 3 inches towards the Ravagers. The Tully Sworn shields reposition to center and attack the spearmen. They throw 7 dice and land 4 hits. The Martells spend the weakened token. 3 hits still land. The spearmen block 1 and takes 2 wounds. They then fail their panic test and take 1 more wound. Starfall Outriders declare a maneuver action, and in response, Howland's Crannog Traps card is played. This time they roll a 1 and take 2 wounds. The Outriders then move 5 inches towards and then declare a charge on the Tully Sworn Shields. The charge is successful, and the Outriders crash into the backs of the Tully Sworn Shields. They remember to use their rally cry this time and restore 2 wounds to the spearmen. After rolling their attack dice with re-rolls, they land 3 hits. The Stark player uses the weakened token and now only 1 dice hits, but it's a critical blow. The Sworn Shields fail both saves and takes 2 wounds. Then they pass their panic test and deal 1 wound to the Outriders. Daemon then plays his coordinated plotting and targets the Royal Guard. But Howland responds with his second Crannog Traps. The Royal Guard roll a 2 and suffer 3 wounds. Then they move forward 4 inches towards the Ravagers. The Umber Ravagers activate and maneuver within an inch from the Royal Guard, then they declare a charge. The Martells play superior positioning, the Starks roll, and it would be disorderly, but they play devastating impact to gain a re-roll on the charge dice because they control the maneuver zone. But even with the re-roll, the Ravagers suffer a disorderly charge and become vulnerable. Devastating impact causes the Royal Guard to become panicked and vulnerable. Finally, because the Royal Guard have more ranks, the Umber Ravagers gain vicious and roll 8 attack dice. With the North Remembers triggered, they are hitting on a 2+ and land 6 hits. The Royal Guard block 1 and trigger Shield Wall, taking only 2 wounds. They pass their panic, but the token is spent and they fail on the re-roll and suffer another 3 wounds. The Royal Guard activates and the Stark player plays Bog Devil Ambush to make them weakened. Using Daemon's rally cry, they restore 2 wounds to the spearmen. They roll 4 dice and land 1 hit. The Ravagers fail to save it, taking a wound. However, they then pass their panic test. The Winterfell Guardian's abilities mean they heal 1 wound and then deal 1 wound. The Karstark Spearmen claim the right objective. At the end of round 5, the Stark player controls 2 objectives and scores 2 victory points. During cleanup, the Stark player discards Winter is Coming and then draws the Threat Unseen and Swift Reposition. The Martell player draws Need for Vengeance and 2 Dune Tactics. End of round 5.
Round 6.
At the start of the round, Arya is killed by the Strangler. Tyene opens the final round by taking the Wealth Zone and restoring 4 wounds to the SUNSPEAR Royal Guard and removing their weakened token. The Starks activate Littlefinger. He claims the combat zone and targets the Umber Ravagers. The Martells play Dune Tactics to reduce the Umber Ravagers to their lowest attack dice. They attack with 6 dice and land 4 hits. The Royal Guard blocks 2 hits, and the Stark player expends the vulnerable token for 1 additional hit. The Royal Guard use their Shield Wall ability to block 2 hits and take only 1 wound. The Martell Royal Guard pass their panic test and take no wounds. The Martells activate Nymeria Sand, who claims the Crown Zone. She attaches her influence to the Starfall Outriders and targets the Karstark Spearmen. The Karstark Spearmen pass their panic test. At the start of the Stark player's turn, Sandor Clegane uses his Threaten ability to place a weakened token on the Starfall Outriders. The Starks activate Sansa. She claims the maneuver zone and plays Assault Orders, targeting the Umber Ravagers. The Martell player uses his second Dune Tactics card to force them to roll their lowest attack dice. They roll 5 successful hits, and the guards block 2 and take 3 wounds. They then pass their panic test. Ellaria Sand takes the Tactics Zone and places a vulnerable token on the Tully Sworn Shields. Then they draw 2 cards. The Umber Ravagers activate, and the Martells play Rising Temperatures on them. The Umbers roll 8 attack dice and land 6 hits. The Martells fail to block enough and are destroyed. The Umber Ravagers surge forward onto the objective and score 1 victory point. The Starfall Outriders activate and attack the Tullys. They land 5 hits with critical blow. The Starks block 4, but the vulnerable token is spent, and on the re-roll they take 5 wounds. Then they fail their panic test and take an additional wound. The Starks activate Objective 9, and the House Tully Sworn Shields weaken the Spearmen. They attack and land 3 hits. The spearmen fail to block 2 hits and take 2 wounds. The spearmen pass their panic test. The Martells play pathetic attempt, and the Tully Sworn shields take 4 hits. They fail to block 3 and are destroyed. The Martells score 1 victory point. The Martell spearmen activate and claim the center objective. The Karstark spearmen activate and hold the right objective. At the end of the round, the Starks score 2 more victory points, bringing their total to 12. The Martells score 1 victory point and finish with 4 victory points. Howland and the Starks win a crushing victory.
If you enjoy this content, please take a moment to like and subscribe. May the old gods and the new smile on you. Good gaming.